Highway humanoid. The highway humanoid was a strange humanoid cryptid that was caught on film on a highway in England in 2007. The highway humanoid is depicted as having a human-like head, body and legs, but it moves in a manner that is distinctively non-human. The footage captured by a CCTV camera shows a bizarre humanoid figure running on all fours across the motorway. This video that brought the existence of this creature to light was initially met with skepticism, with many assuming it to be a hoax. However, paranormal investigators who examined the footage confirmed its authenticity, stating that local authorities overseeing the CCTV camera verified that the footage was genuine and not tampered with. This validation has led to various theories about what the highway humanoid could be. Some suggest that it might be an undiscovered species, a cryptid that has managed to evade scientific detection. Others propose it could be a misidentified animal or even an insane person exhibiting unusual behavior. Despite these theories, no definitive explanation has been agreed upon, leaving the creature's true origin a matter of speculation. Texas UFO. The state of Texas has long been a hotspot for UFO sightings, with some of the most well-documented cases in the United States. Among these, the Stephenville Lights and the Aurora UFO incident stand out as particularly notable. The Stephenville Light incident occurred in January of 2008 in the small town of Stephenville, Texas. On the night of January 8, several residents reported seeing a series of bright lights in the sky. These lights were described as intensely bright and moving at high speeds without making any noise or sound. One of the most detailed accounts came from Steve Allen, a local pilot who described the lights as being almost blinding and moving in a manner unlike any aircraft he had ever seen. The lights were followed by what appeared to be military jets in pursuit. The Stephenville lights quickly gained national attention, with media outlets flocking to the town. The Mutual UFO Network, aka the MUFON, conducted an investigation and collected numerous eyewitness accounts. Despite the extensive coverage and investigation, no definitive explanation was ever provided, and the incident remains one of the most credible UFO sightings in modern times. Another significant UFO event in Texas history is the Aurora UFO incident, which allegedly took place on April 17, 1897. According to the locals, an airship crashed into a windmill on a farm in the small town of Aurora, located about 30 miles northwest of Fort Worth. The crash reportedly resulted in the death of the pilot, who was described as not being of this world. The pilot's body was said to have been buried in the local cemetery, and the wreckage was supposedly dumped into a nearby well. The Aurora incident has been the subject of much speculation and investigation over the years. In the 1970s, researchers attempted to exhume the alleged alien's grave, but were prevented by a court injunction. Despite numerous investigations and tests, including the analysis of metal fragments and water samples from the well, no conclusive evidence has been found to prove or disprove the incident. Texas has also been home to other notable UFO sightings, such as the Lubbock Lights in 1951. This incident involved a series of V-shaped formations of bluish-green lights seen by multiple witnesses, including a group of university professors. The lights were observed over several nights and were photographed, making it one of the most well-documented UFO sightings of all time. Liath Moor. Liath Moor, or the Big Grey Man of Ben Macdui, is a cryptid reported in the Scottish Highlands, specifically around Ben Macdui. It is reported to be very thin and over 10 feet tall, with dark skin, long arms, and broad shoulders. In 1925, Norman Colley gave the first recorded account of a grey man encounter. Norman Colley, who is a noted hiker, professor, and a member of the Royal Geographical Society, recounted a terrifying experience he had as he hiked along near the summit of Ben Macdui years earlier in 1891. He described being followed by a large figure while hiking the mountain. In the following years, other climbers came forward with their own encounters, which they had previously been afraid to share. And in 1958, naturalist and mountaineer Alexander Tunion published an article in the Scots magazine about an encounter with the Grey Man in 1943. However, no photographs of the Big Grey Man have ever been taken. Angel of Hertford. The Angel of Hertford is a lesser-known entity supposedly seen in the town of Hertford, England. Descriptions of these beings vary, with some witnesses claiming it appears as a glowing angelic figure with wings, while others describing it as a shadowy presence with wings. The entity is said to have appeared during a violent storm in the 18th century. The origin of the Angel of Hertford dates back to May 18, 1749. During a thunderstorm, a man named John Mitchell reported encountering a being of gigantic stature while traveling near Hertford. According to Mitchell, this entity had a face that shone like the sun, a crown resembling stars on its head, and wings on its shoulders. Its body appeared to be made out of transparent fire, and it vanished suddenly, transforming into several balls of light, accompanied by an explosion similar to the sound of cannons. This description aligns with traditional depictions of angels as imposing and awe-inspiring beings. The crown of stars could be interpreted as a halo, a common feature in religious iconography. The wings and larger than human stature further emphasize its celestial nature. Such characteristics are reminiscent of biblical angels, who are often described as powerful and fearsome messengers of God. Encounters with the Angel of Hertford are rare, with the 1749 sighting being the most well-documented instance. Farmersville Green Man. The Farmersville Green Man is a cryptid originating from Farmersville, Texas. It is described as no taller than 18 inches, dark green skin color devoid of clothing save for a small hat similar to a sombrero, which is fused to his rubbery skin. This hat is at the back of his head and is described as a small sombrero and being shaped together with the remainder of the rubber-like skin or tight-fitting suit of the entity. The witnesses were undecided as to whether the rubbery texture was a skin or an external suit. The Farmersville Green Man sighting was an extraterrestrial sighting that took place in May of 1913 near Farmersville, Texas. While chopping cotton one morning, Clyde, Sid, and Sylvie Latham heard their two dogs barking as if in distress. The three brothers ran to see what was bothering the dogs and found that the dogs had cornered a small green man which appeared to be made out of rubber. In an instant, the dogs were upon the man and shredded him with their teeth and spread blood and guts all over the place. The boys, unable to stop the dogs and not likely to be believed by authorities, simply went back to work. The boys returned to their work but went back to see the scene from time to time to see rotten remains and the dogs cowering from the spot. By the time their parents investigated, all traces had disappeared. Spider-Man's ghost. The origin of the Spider-Man's ghost humanoid can be traced back to a bizarre event that occurred in 1982 in Washington state. The first known encounter involved a young girl around 5 years old who was visiting her grandmother on a reservation. While playing in a back room, she noticed something unusual in the backyard. Initially, she saw what appeared to be red gloves reaching up from behind a tall cinder block wall. As she approached the sliding glass door to get a better look, she witnessed a figure resembling Spider-Man, clad in a red and blue suit, crawling over the wall in a slithery, snake-like manner. The entity is said to wear a costume identical to that of the comic book superhero Spider-Man, complete with a mask covering its entire head and face. Its movements are described as slow and slithery. The witness felt an inexplicable compulsion to approach the entity despite her fear. As she moved closer, she suddenly found herself unable to move or speak. The figure then placed its hand on the window and cocked its head to the side, much like a curious dog. This unsettling behavior left the girl terrified and unable to scream, only producing a faint squeak. The encounter ended when the girl's grandmother entered the room. The grandmother found her granddaughter standing frozen, tears streaming down her face, and repeatedly saying "Spider-Man." The entity's departure remains unclear as the witness does not recall how it left the scene. The grandmother and the girl's mother tried to calm the girl down, insisting that she had imagined the encounter. Years later, when the witness was 16, she revisited her grandmother's house and inquired about the incident. Her grandmother revealed new information, suggesting that the sighting might have been an echo of a past tragedy. According to the grandmother's tale, a young man on the reservation, believed to have had autism, was given a Spider-Man costume by the girl's grandmother. He wore the costume constantly until his tragic death, where he was struck by a truck while still wearing it. Following his death, sightings of a ghostly figure in the Spider-Man costume began to occur among the young people on the reservation. The grandmother believes that the girl saw this ghost, which had come to play with her. Since sharing her story, the witness has heard from others who claim to have seen the same Spider-Man ghost. Microterrestrials of Malaysia. The Microterrestrials of Malaysia are tiny humanoid beings that were first reported in Bukit Mertajam, Pulau Penang, Malaysia on August 20, 1970. The initial encounter occurred when two young boys ventured to a location where they had been informed a UFO had landed the previous day. Upon arrival, they discovered a round, blue object on the ground surrounded by several humanoid figures. These beings were described as ugly and remarkably small, standing only about 3 inches tall. One of the boys attempted to capture one of the beings, which responded by drawing a weapon and shooting him in the hand. The boys fled to get their teachers, but by the time they returned, the craft and the beings had vanished. Later that same day, one of the boys involved in the first encounter saw a small UFO near his school. 5 tiny humanoids emerged from the UFO, with one, seemingly the leader, dressed in a yellow uniform and sporting 2 horn-like protrusions on its head. The other 4 wore blue uniforms. The leader aimed a weapon at the boy and shot him, causing him to black out. When he regained consciousness, he found a small red mark on his leg where he had been shot. The town of Bukit Mertajam soon found itself in the midst of what appeared to be a UFO flap. 2 other boys in the village reported seeing 2 tiny men perched among some bushes, one on a rock and the other on a tree branch. These beings were dressed in yellow suits, and one appeared to have only one arm and was holding a small gun. The boys tried to capture the beings, but they managed to escape. That evening, the young son of a high-ranking local police official encountered 2 tiny figures hiding in the bushes as he was returning from school. Like the other witnesses, he attempted to capture the beings but was shot in the hand, receiving a small cut. Interestingly, all reported sightings of these beings were made by children, which has led to comparisons with other paranormal phenomena such as the so-called phantom clowns and fairies, because in modern literature, fairies are often associated with children. The Wyoming Woman in Black. The Wyoming Woman in Black is an entity said to haunt the Wyoming Cemetery near Melrose, Massachusetts. The Wyoming Woman in Black is described as a small woman dressed in a long, black veiled dress reminiscent of a mourning attire from the Civil War era. Witnesses have reported that she appears to be floating rather than walking. Her face is obscured by the veil, making her identity and expressions a mystery. One notable account involves a group of friends who encountered the woman in black after a late-night softball game at Pine Banks Park, which borders the Wyoming Cemetery. As they walked through the cemetery, they noticed a flickering light near some gravestones. Upon closer inspection, they saw a woman in black approaching them. She passed by them silently, seemingly floating above the ground. The friends were struck by her presence and followed her at a distance, only to see her re-enter the cemetery through an old path before they eventually lost sight of her. Harpies of Pelotas City. The story of the Harpies of Pelotas City originates from a South American journal, first published in 1976. According to this account, the harrowing encounter took place in the 1950s. The witnesses, Luciola Triul and her husband, Luis de Rosario Riul, were walking along a moonlit forest trail when they had a terrifying run-in with 2 bizarre winged creatures. The creatures, described by the couple, were initially mistaken for oversized birds. However, as they landed in front of the couple, it became clear that these beings were far stranger. The harpies were much taller than any bird and had bodies that looked uncannily humanoid. They possessed the wings, tails, legs, and claws of birds of prey, but their upper bodies and faces were disturbingly human-like. The creatures seemed to crouch down as if trying to avoid being seen. As the real couple walked along the forest trail, they noticed large silhouettes swooping around above them. Initially, they thought these shapes were just large birds gracefully soaring through the night sky. However, when the creatures landed, the couple realized that they were facing something far more sinister. The Harpies' sudden appearance and their unsettling behavior left the couple in a state of shock. The creature seemed to be stalking them, and the couple quickly decided to flee the area. Louise later expressed regret for not staying to learn more about these mysterious beings, but the fear they felt at that time was overwhelming. Headless Angel of Portugal. The legend of the Headless Angel of Portugal originates from a sighting in the summer of 1915 near Quebeco, Portugal. 4 young shepherdesses reported seeing a mysterious humanoid figure. This sighting occurred during a period of heightened religious and supernatural interest in the region. The entity was described as a figure like a statue made of snow which the rays of the sun had turned somewhat transparent. It had bright white skin and notably lacked a head. Despite this, the figure managed to hover in the air without any visible wings. The primary encounter with the Headless Angel of Portugal involved the 4 shepherdesses near Quebeco. This sighting is the most detailed and widely known account. While there are no other notable encounters documented, this singular sighting has sparked various theories and speculations. Some believe the entity could be an angel, while others suggest it might have been a hoax or a misinterpretation of natural phenomenon. The Woman Who Walks the Road of Bones. The legend of the woman who walks the Road of Bones originates from the remote and desolate Kolyma Highway in Russia, also known as the Road of Bones. This highway, stretching over 2,000 kilometers, was constructed during the Stalinist era by forced laborers from the Gulag camps. The road earned its nickname because the bones of the countless prisoners who perished during its construction were reportedly used as part of the construction materials. The woman who walks the Road of Bones is described as a spectral figure, often seen wandering the highway at dusk or during the dead of the night. Witnesses report seeing a woman dressed in tattered old-fashioned clothing, often obscured either by a hood or the darkness. She is sometimes described as having a pale and gaunt face, with hollow empty eye sockets that seem to stare into the void. She is often depicted as carrying a lantern or a small bundle, symbolizing the lost souls of prisoners who died building the road. She is believed to be the spirit of one of the countless prisoners who died during the road's constructions. Encounter with the woman who walks the Road of Bones are rare but chilling. Drivers and travelers on the Kolyma Highway have reported seeing a lone figure walking along the side or the middle of the road, only for her to vanish without a trace. Some have claimed that their vehicles inexplicably stalled or experienced electrical malfunctions in her presence. Others have heard faint, mournful cries or whispers carried by the wind, believed to be the voices of the restless spirits she guides. One notable sighting occurred in the early 2000s when a group of documentary filmmakers traveled to the Kolyma Highway to capture its haunting history. According to their accounts, they saw a woman fitting the description of the spectral figure standing by the side of the road at dusk. Despite their attempts to approach her, she disappeared into the twilight, leaving the filmmakers with the realization that they had encountered something otherworldly. Another chilling account involves a truck driver who was traveling the highway late at night. He noticed a figure in the distance and slowed down to offer help, assuming it was a stranded traveler. As he got closer, he realized that the figure was a woman in tattered clothing, walking slowly with her head down. When he pulled up alongside her, she lifted her head, revealing hollow black eyes. The driver sped away in terror, but when he looked in his rear-view mirror, the woman had disappeared. Philadelphia Eagle Birdman. The Philadelphia Eagle Birdman is believed to inhabit the states of New York and Pennsylvania, with a particular affinity for the streets of North Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Eagle Birdman is described as a male cryptid with bird-like features. Its appearance is somewhat reminiscent of a large chicken with wings that are not functional enough for flight. Despite this limitation, the Birdman is known for its agility and ability to navigate urban environments. It is often seen accompanied by a feline companion named Tweak. Due to its unfunctional wings, it is said that the Birdman enjoys riding bikes down steep hills with no brakes to avoid being spotted. The Birdman has a unique diet, favoring malt, liquor, and peanut butter sandwiches. Additionally, there are suggestions that it may have a penchant for marijuana, as evidenced by trails of smoke and a distinctive essence left behind after sighting. One of the most notable encounters with the Philadelphia Eagle Birdman occurred during a hockey game in 2009 at Blade Runners in the Hammerville, Pennsylvania. The birdman was spotted blocking a puck with his ear, an extraordinary feat that left spectators in shock. The creature quickly skated off the ice, prompting questions about how it managed to get there in the first place. This incident even led to an investigation involving the 9/11 Commission report and a Homeland Security audit.